Coach, 10 wins last year. How do you take that season and get over the hump for a conference title going into this season?
Yeah, every year is a new adventure,
Right.
quite frankly. And, last year it had an interesting turn of events. We really had some challenges offensively early in the season. Arguably lost our three top players offensively. So at a place like ours, that makes a big impact. I guess the New York Jets could identify with that. But we had a good defensive football team, probably the best punter in the country, and we're able to find a way each and every week to be fairly successful. So, we started anew this year. Good news is we do have a lot of guys back on defense. We haven't stopped anybody yet this year, but we have a lot of guys back. And then offensively, I think we're in a lot better shape than we were certainly a year ago. And so we're optimistic about the season, but there's always, a lot of twists and turns that are in front of us.
I wanted to ask you about the defense. Ton of returning starters. This unit was great last year. Somebody in the middle like Jay Higgins. What does his leadership and production provide for not just the defense, but all the guys around him as well?
Yeah, it's so important. And every team, you need good leadership. And certainly I've always believed it's like baseball. You have to have leadership up the middle, and on defense that, is a middle linebacker position, actually both inside backers and the safeties typically are the ones that are kind of the guys that coordinate things. And we graduated an outstanding player in Jack Campbell. And I think Jay's a great story in college football on a couple levels. He was patient. He sat behind Jack. Didn't pout, didn't moan, like he knew he was behind a really good football player. Played outstanding on special teams and found other ways to help our team. And then when he got his opportunity, I think I speak for everybody, our players and our coaching staff, we were all confident Jay would play really well last year and be a command guy, a leader guy. But the production that he had was, I don't think any of us would have predicted that. It was just phenomenal. And it's a real credit to a guy who was patient. He learned from a really good player, and then he went out and played at a level that was just really outstanding. So we're fortunate to have Jay on our football team, and just really looking forward to another year with him.
I feel like your program has a lot of those positions that are pipelines where guys kind of wait their turn and they get their chance to take off. And tight end is another one as well. And obviously Luke Lachey back this year is a big boost to the offense. What is he going to be able to do under Tim Lester now? Not just a tight end, but a guy that can play off the line of scrimmage as well.
Yeah, historically, tight ends have been really important to us, and I go back to the 80s that way. Luke certainly fits in that description. It's interesting if you go back the last 20-plus years and look at our tight ends. They're all very different in terms of their builds and all that type of thing, but we've been pretty successful using those guys, and that is really important to us. Certainly when we went through the process of hiring Tim, one of my concerns or interests was make sure tight ends were going to be involved in the scheme, and I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. So it really hurt us last year. I mentioned we lost some guys. You get Luke Lachey, who's an NFL tight end, and Eric Hall got drafted only playing 3 games and with a tough injury. It'll be a big part of what we do, and we really like Addison Estranga, the young guy that's teaming up with Luke.
So bringing in Tim to run the offense, what were some of his ideas and kind of just overall, his previous background? I know he was in the NFL for a year, but had a lot of success at the college level before that. What did you like about him running your offense?
Well, he kind of had my dream job last year. He was an analyst for Green Bay. And where I think he was really lucky, he worked with the defense, so he got to preview all 17 now opponents, soon to be 18, all 17 opponents, and not to mention preseason, that type of thing. So I've always joked, it'd be great. Professors take sabbaticals, coaches only get them when you get fired, so that's a downside. But it'd be so neat, I think, to have that kind of exposure and study and really fortify what you already had. And to that point, Tim had a great base as an offensive guy. He's a quarterback, former quarterback. He's been an offensive coordinator. He's been a quarterback coach. Obviously, he was a head coach at Western Michigan and did very well there. So I think just the broadness of his experience level, and it wasn't a requisite that the guy that position be a former head coach, but it was a requisite that whoever's calling plays has to have an appreciation of how defense, special teams, situations during the course of a game all play into success. And again, you look at last season, we won 10 games. We didn't have a lot of firepower on offense, and we knew that, and everybody knew that. But we still found a way to be successful, and that's, there's a lot that goes into that. It's all three, I think, coordinators and the head coach kind of being on the same page in terms of how we're going to play things out.
And maybe some of that firepower returning is Cade McNamara running the offense as well, healthy now. What do you expect from him in year 2 here?
And I've been at Iowa now, I guess it's my 36, I don't know. Yeah, well, I can do the math here. This would be my 35th year. One thing that's common, whether it's the last 25 years or go back in the 80s when I was here, when we have good line play and good quarterback play, it gives us a basis for having an opportunity to have a good offensive football team. And I feel like we're finally at that point. We've had some issues at quarterback, and I think it's well documented last year. The young guy that stepped in did a great job, considering, but he just he wasn't really ready for Big Ten action, if you will. Getting Cade back is going to, I think, be very, very helpful to us. We've seen him compete and we've seen him perform, unfortunately, firsthand a couple of years ago right here in Indianapolis. So getting him back, back with us and leading our team, I think is going to be a real benefit. And for the first time in several years, I think we're at a point up front where we're more veteran now, and we still have to do it, but I think we'll at least be able to play at the tempo we want to play and hope to play at.
You mentioned how long you've been with this program. This college football landscape, it feels like there's so much movement, whether it's players, coaches, there's just not a lot of continuity. How important is that to you, not only the legacy you've built there, but having that continuity at one program?
Yeah, it's not so much about legacy, but I think, you never say never. I'll say this, nobody's ever going to go 25, and not in this day of social media and everybody's an expert. So the chances of doing that are pretty rare. But I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I really was a great fan of Chuck Noll. And then since that time, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. They've had 3 coaches since '69, and I think the Steelers organization really understands continuity is good. And to me, when you hit a bump in the road, which is going to happen, what we do, it's competitive. Just, nothing's more competitive in the NFL. I've always been an admirer of the Rooney family. They understand the concept that bumps are going to happen. It's part of life. It's part of what we do. And really all that matters is the response. So it's more about working through issues than it is just, torching and burning everything, which a lot of people tend to do. That's just my school of thought. It doesn't make it right or wrong, but that's, I think, been a real advantage. And if you look historically, at least during my 34 years involved in the program, we've had great continuity with our assistants. And I was here 9 straight years. I think we went 7 straight with no changes on our staff before Barry Alvarez went to Notre Dame. So, you live those lessons and you see things, you observe, and I feel very fortunate that we've been able to have that continuity, and it's just part of that's just being at Iowa. It's a special place.
Speaking of that change, 4 new teams in the conference now. What kind of challenges does that bring?
Yeah, it's really created a lot of good discussion, and but the reality is it affects us 1 away game a year. That's the reality of it. So we're fortunate that way, and at least we're halfway across the country. We're not on the East Coast. And then the other reality is we're playing 12 games. That's never changed. And, last 25 years, I've heard a lot of debate about 2 teams in the playoffs, 4, 16, 12, all that stuff. The only takeaway I've got, and I'm not real, complex in my thinking, the one thing I've learned is the more you win, the better things are. So let's just try to win this week and then worry about everything else later on.
So the Black Friday game this year against Nebraska, how special is that rivalry, not only for you as a team, but also for the fans?
Well, the good news for us, it wasn't a rivalry for quite a while. I'll go back to 1981. We upset them. They had beat us by 50 the year before. We nailed them 10-7, convincing win, but it was a huge win. Back in 1981, the next year they repaid us with about a 50-point victory. So point being, and same thing when I came back in '99, they got us in a couple games. But it's been a good series, and it makes just perfect sense, the geographic component of it. When I got to Iowa in the '80s, Western Iowa was Nebraska territory. It wasn't Iowa. Coach Fry did a lot to really, I think, get the whole state behind our program. So, things have changed a lot in 40-some years, but it's just a natural rivalry, and, both teams have been very, very competitive.
So the week of Thanksgiving makes it even a little bit more special. What's something that you're thankful for with the program?
Selfishly, what I like about playing on Friday, as coaches, you work through holidays. You work through Thanksgiving, and you work through Christmas typically. If you don't, that's not good. So the nice thing is on Saturday we get to celebrate Thanksgiving, and it's really rare, especially that time of year, to have your whole family together and have a chance just to break bread and just maybe appreciate some basic things in life.
With the craziness of being a coach, I know it's hard to establish holiday traditions. Like you said, you're usually just working. But what are your Thanksgiving traditions?
Well, the best thing about it is there's no gifts and it's all good food.
Right.
You get to eat twice.
Down to business.
Yeah, there's really no traditions other than come hungry.
Eating twice. What do you go for with leftovers? What's the best Thanksgiving leftovers?
I think it's all good the second time around. But yeah, either make a sandwich or just redo it one more time. Microwave it, and here we go.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, thank you.